And if I told you once, I ain't gonna tell you twice. Salute all my real ones. Yeah. Listen, champ, we got the myth of the self-made billionaire. I mean, you know, there's some people that call themselves self-made billionaires, but if you got to become a billionaire, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know a lot of people love to hate billionaires, but why are you hating on them if you know that you would love to become one yourself? So I'm not going to do that. But we're going to get straight into this video, though. Before we do that, like button, subscribe button, notification bell, press those. Let's go.
This episode and others like it are made possible by the generous free video. Consider
Rihanna, the superstar singer and entrepreneur, gaining a new title, Billionaire. Chief business correspondent Rebecca Jarvis joins us with more on the talented media mogul's incredible journey. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, Robin. Yeah, this is a great story, a fun one. Women entrepreneurs and founders, business leaders, they are moguls, they are creating businesses, they are disrupting industries, and Rihanna is among them. She can now add billionaire to the top of her titles list.
Here in the United States, we'll often hear stories like these. It's no secret that Americans love to hear about billionaires. You'll find them everywhere. They're on the news, have their own TV shows, movies, and even make their way into elected office. Specifically, we consistently give massive audiences to self-made billionaires. The people who, unlike the aristocrats and monarchs of yore, didn't simply inherit their wealth. In this episode, we're talking about the obsession with so-called self-made billionaires, how misleading that term can be, and everything wrong with the myth of the self-made person. At the heart of every favorable depiction of a billionaire,
I'm actually interested to see where this video is gonna go, because, like, for example, you start with Rihanna. Rihanna was, you know what I'm saying, one of us. She was broke as shit, coming from Barbados, you know what I'm saying? And she came here and she grinded. Now, she's one of the most beautiful women on the earth, and she's very talented, but you know what I'm saying, her family didn't come from money. She built that on her own. Fenty and, you know what I'm saying, the Savage X Fenty line, all that stuff that made her a billionaire, she built that. So I want to see where they're going to go with this, because it's like, I might not agree with this video.
Billionaire is this idea that they have earned their success and their wealth. The most compelling stories are those of billionaires who, through sheer hard work and grit, so we're told, have conquered the American dream and made a better life for themselves, those around them, and our society as a whole. But there are a number of reasons this is simply incorrect. We'll get to exactly how this idea is wrong in a second. But first, we should talk about why the myth of self-made billionaires is such a problem. For starters, vanishingly few people ever become billionaires. In the US, it's around 600 people, or 0.0002% of the population. Perversely, however, the myth of the self-made billionaire tries to trick you into believing that anybody, yes, even you, dear viewer, could one day be just like them. After all, if they can do it, so can you. You already know how they attempt to sell this falsehood. It's always so incredibly simple. They tell you they started from nothing, that they were once just like you. They too had a 9-to-5 job that they hated. They too had trouble paying their bills. But instead of complaining, they just worked harder. And eventually, after 100-hour work weeks, they were able to lift themselves up by their bootstraps, and just look at them now. Here's where the problems start. If they can successfully convince you that 1, they have earned their wealth, and 2, that you can do it too, they can use those two assumptions to convince you of some far more nefarious things. For starters, they can convince you to act against your own self-interest, and the interest of the vast majority of Americans. The most obvious example of this is making it seem like it would be better for everyone if billionaires paid less in taxes. If we just got the government out of the way of these people who have proven to us that they are visionaries.
I'm gonna stop there. I don't agree with that. Just because I believe that somebody is able to work hard, start a business, and is able to achieve great things, whether that's becoming a billionaire or being an entrepreneur or doing philanthropic work, doesn't automatically mean that when they tell me, oh, our taxes should be lower, right? So automatically, that's almost like saying, if you believe that you can become a billionaire, you automatically align with the Republican idea that people should pay less taxes. I actually don't believe that. I believe that people should be able to achieve the goals that they want to achieve, but you also have to pay your fair share. So I already disagree with this.
That they alone know how to manage money. To be clear, the ultra-rich already have a good way of avoiding taxes. You can see exactly how they do it in our video, How Billionaires Pay Less in Taxes Than You. But of course that doesn't matter, since they'll always try to lower that number further and further. The more they do, the less money goes towards things that actually affect your day-to-day life. Roads, public services, healthcare, education. The more they keep of the wealth they have no intention of spending in the first place, the worse off we all are. They'll convince you that that might be you someday, that when you're in their shoes, you'll want the same thing. After all, what's the government ever done for you? We'll get to just how much it's done for them. But first, let's get back to the self-made story. In some cases, that story is simply a blatant lie. Take Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. The last decade's favorite billionaire duo loves to weave a compelling story of their 100% American-made success. Jeff Bezos likes to tell this story of a young guy who built a strong work ethic at his McDonald's job. He loves to emphasize how it was his hard work that eventually landed him a spot at Princeton, then on Wall Street, and finally pushed him to one day risk it all on the crazy idea of selling books on the internet. His story reaches a dramatic pause when he starts Amazon out of a garage with nothing but a dream, and it resumes satisfyingly when his company becomes the internet giant it is today. Elon Musk tells a very similar story, that of an industrious kid bullied for being too nerdy and into science fiction, who climbed out of adversity and overcame the all-too-common American hurdles of student loan debt and people not believing in him with the sheer ingenuity of his entrepreneurship. These stories are, of course, embellished, and while individual elements of them may not be false, the overall image they're trying to sell you is a lie. Because it wasn't the novelty of Amazon alone that catapulted it to the center of the internet, so much as the absurd head start that an initial $300,000 investment that Jeff's parents gave him. And although Musk likes to play up his version of the everyman story too, his family is most—
I mean, that I could see the point on that. Like, you know what I'm saying, how many of us have parents or family members that's willing to give us $300,000 to start a business? On the flip side, there's people that are like, well, if you have good credit, you can go to the bank and try to get a loan for that to start your own business. And then my only, but because that is a good, you know, all right, cool, I give him that point. My only pushback on that is $300,000 is not $100 billion. You know what I'm saying? So he still had to take that initial investment and turn it into, you know, what it is now. So how many people started off with more and ended up with less? That's my only slight pushback. But he has a point. And then my only other pushback is people always say it takes money to make money. So it's not like you're just going to start with zero and end up at 100 million. Like, you have to have some type of financial asset to be able to build what you're trying to build.
Infamously,
but 300,000 is a lot.
Known for his father's ownership of a lucrative emerald mine and role as a property developer in apartheid South Africa. These people didn't start from nothing. It wasn't just hard work. Billionaires never get there alone. They get there in any combination of three ways. 1. Family wealth and privilege. 2. Labor exploitation. And 3. Government help. Let's start with number 1. Family wealth and privilege explains the success of a lot of the billionaires that sit at the top of our social hierarchy.
What about Oprah and Rihanna and Kanye? I got Oprah, Rihanna, Kanye ain't a billionaire no more. Oprah, Rihanna, and Jay-Z.
We've already seen how much of a role family wealth played in the success of even the quote self-made celebrity billionaires like Musk and Bezos. So it should come as no surprise that the great majority of billionaires have similarly favorable advantages. The racial and gender makeup of the billionaire class is not an accident. It is no surprise then that the people who face the fewest societal hurdles, white men, overwhelmingly dominate the Forbes rankings, while women and people from racial minority groups only make up a fraction. But privilege doesn't explain every single billionaire's climb to the top. Exploitation, however, does. What do we mean when we say exploitation? Those familiar with Marxist literature will already know that exploitation is the expropriation of surplus value from labor by capital. Okay, but what does that mean? It's actually very simple. According to Marx, society is divided into two classes: the owner class, the bourgeoisie, and the working class, the proletariat. I promise I'll make this quick. The owner class, people who own businesses, factories, farms, and so on, offer a deal to the working class: work or starve. As you already know...
Hold on, man. Yeah, but it's really not that brutal. It's time, your time, for money. And what everybody now is learning is that your time is more valuable than that money. And what you need to do is figure out a way for you to become an owner. And that applies for everybody. And that's why, like, the young kids, 16, 17, 18, 19, they like, yo, bro, like, I'm not trying to work a 9 to 5. I'm not trying to work for a pension. I'm not trying to work 40 years. I want to own a business and make bread and retire early and take care of my family and travel and live life and do things outside of the normal systematic way that they want you to do things. So once again, he has a point. But it's like there's parts that are missing.
Just about every single one of us takes that deal. So, what do the owner class say? They say that for X amount of hours worked, workers will be paid Y amount of money. In order for that deal to be profitable for the owner class, they need to pay workers less money than the value they actually produce. That difference is what Marx calls surplus value. The money that you make for the company will always be more than the money the business puts back into your hands in the form of a paycheck. Otherwise, it has no money to give the people who own the company, the stakeholders, who may never have even stepped foot on the premises. If you want an idea of just how much value business owners steal from their workers, just look at this Ohio pizza shop, where for one day the owner decided not to siphon off that surplus value and instead put it back into the hands of the workers. The result? Employees made $78 an hour. That's the Marxist definition of exploitation, and every single capitalist business in the world relies on it, whether they want to or not. The most egregious examples, of course, are those we see with Billionaires companies, in which figureheads who no longer work on or only ever held stock in the company walk away with hundreds of millions of dollars a year. But even with a more relaxed definition of exploitation, we see this kind of behavior playing a massive role in billionaires' wealth. You may have recently heard of exploitation occurring in newly minted billionaire Rihanna's Fenty beauty factories, or Beyoncé's Ivy Park sweatshops. It's immediately obvious to us how sweatshop labor is clearly exploitative when workers, often children, make mere cents for each grueling hour spent in unsafe conditions. Compare that to the billionaire status of those at the top, and it's impossible not to see something deeply wrong.
Y'all see my face, right? I don't got, like, I know I've been defending him. I don't got, if what he's saying is true, there's no defending that. That shit is fucked up. That shit is messed up, bro. I don't do child labor. I don't do, like, word. I don't, yeah. So, I know I've been saying, but, yeah. I'm just gonna keep, see my face? It's crazy.
And exploitative in the working arrangements they have created. While Rihanna and Beyoncé might be the face of the club this week, they are no more or less culpable than their mega wealthy peers, those whose less glamorous companies manage to avoid the spotlight. Once again, how does this kind of behavior make a person self-made? That brings us to point number 3, government help. Here, the conservative and libertarian views of the world's billionaires are the most evidently hypocritical. Elon Musk.
I guess my only question is, if Beyonce and Rihanna built these businesses, they, you know, their name is attached to them. They're the CEO. They're the founder. And, you know, as messed up as it is, they're offering these jobs overseas in India or, you know, other parts of Asia, and people are willingly going to those companies to work in those areas. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not talking about the moral sense of it, because, like, you know, morally it's messed up, right? Because obviously if you're saying, yo, I'm going to start this business, but I'm going to build the factory overseas in Asia, it's for the obvious fact that if you built it here in the United States, you would have to pay your workers more because we have stronger labor laws. But what I'm not talking about from that moral sense, because morally it's fucked up. I'm talking about from the fact that there was no Fenty Beauty, there was no Ivy Park. They built those companies, and yes, other people are working for you, but it's still your company that you started. That without you, it wouldn't, right? Because if Rihanna wasn't attached to Fenty, it wouldn't be nothing, right? So her brand is where the worth comes from. Right. So I just want to be clear that I'm not arguing the morality of, you know, having overseas jobs and quote unquote sweatshops like that. You know, like it's pretty obvious that's messed up. I'm just talking about the definition of self-made. Right. Rihanna started with zero. She built a music career. From that music career and building her brand, she started a clothing line with her name attached to it. That clothing line garnered a lot of attention and made a lot of money and made her a lot of money. So, I mean, in that sense, to me, that's the sense of self-made, because you started from nothing. You started with no help. Now, if you got help along the way, yeah, but you're still self-made. Because if you want to take that away, then yeah, in this perspective, then no one's self-made.
Musk is probably...
I mean, but that's just business. Like, if you run a business, somebody's going to have to work for you. Right? Because nobody made billions by owning a company, starting a company, and doing everything alone.
One of the biggest offenders. So let's come back to him for a second. Musk often talks about the government in very disfavorable terms. He regularly decries government regulation, does everything he can to avoid taxation, and fiercely defends the belief that markets should be free. That said, the billionaires' companies, SpaceX, Tesla, and Solar City, would have no hope of existing without the government's absurd $4.9 billion in loans and tax breaks. We're using Musk as a flagrant example here, but the nature of our current economy is that throughout the entirety of the chain of production, government subsidies are granted from public money only for the profits to be privatized by people who hoard wealth at a level we haven't seen since the Gilded Age. Pharmaceutical research is another classic example of this phenomenon, where large amounts of government funds produce the innovations needed for life-saving medication, only to eventually be appropriated by the private sector, where profits stay squarely within the hands of a few executives who jack up prices and strand countless Americans without
Hey, yo, we have a Martin Shkreli sighting. Why your goons ain't as hard as mine? Pause. That's what he said to was it Ghostface? The disrespect, bro. You don't talk to a legend like that.
Access to the healthcare they need.
That was funny, though.
This is not the vision free market proponents are selling us, where their ludicrous profits are justified by all the risks that innovation entails. In reality, they benefit from the largest public money safety nets in our society. Billionaires receive the government help most analogous to socialism of anyone, but fiercely get in the way of the rest of us enjoying the same privileges so that they can pocket more money than entire nations. No billionaire has ever gotten to their status by ethical means, and to revere them as icons of self-made success is to give them a pass for their selfish, parasitic behavior. We can dream of success without them. We can achieve greatness without them. We can let go of the myth of self-made billionaires.
So, but my only question is that everybody, let me not say everybody, a lot of people are working to try to change their family tree, and the aspiration at minimum, I don't want to hear it. 98% of people in America, the aspiration is to become a millionaire at minimum. And you have people that are like, yo, you know, I just want to live comfortable, you know, and becoming a billionaire is not necessary. Like, you know, for me, it's like, yo, if I'm a millionaire, I'm good. Like, but let me work towards this certain goal. I'm good. That might change once you have that goal and you're like, well, I don't want to stop. I want to keep going. So, like, to the point of this video, if you take the billionaires away that everybody's working. Eventually somebody else is gonna reach that. And it's like, are you gonna hate on that person too? Like, let's say it's your friend or your cousin and they started off by making $30,000 a year and then they become a billionaire. It's like, oh, well, you're a billionaire, so like, that's it. I don't mess with you no more. Tupac said it. I made it out of the ghetto, so I ain't real now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. There's like, it's like, oh, you reached this level of success. We must hate you. But to be real, right, and I get the whole point of, you know, people are doing things unethically, taking advantage of others. It's messed up. And if there's a way to make X amount of money without having to compromise on your morals or your humanity, then, you know, more power to people. I don't know, man. Like, I just feel like there has to be a way to be able to make it to the upper echelons of wealth without having to step on people. Like, but this video makes it seem like, nah, that's not possible.
Imagine for a moment a world without billionaires. Imagine that world where you could actually get the full value of your work, like those pizza shop workers with...
Okay, let's stop, bro, because this is going into the world of insanity. If the pizza shop gave the workers all the profits, how are you gonna pay for the dough to make the pizza, the pepperoni, the cheese, the ovens, the lights, the rent that you have to pay? The business has overhead and you need to pay that overhead. Not only that, but it's like, if I wanted to start a business and I had to pay 100% of the profits to the workers, why the fuck would I want to own a business? Because then I'm, as the owner, would never wind up making any money.
With their $78 an hour wage, how much less stressful would your life become? How much more pleasant and fair would it all be were it not for someone at the top hoarding far more than their share? Hundreds of millions of...
Bro, and at the end of the day, because he keeps saying their share, right? Like, you know, life isn't fair, and like what you're talking about, it's almost like everybody should be paid the same. Bro, like, a person that decided to start a business, let's take, I don't know, let's just start with let's stay with the pizza business. Somebody starts a pizza business and they own that business, but in the beginning it was only them working in that business day and night, and they build it up to the point where they're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna hire employees to work for me so I could work less, so I could open another business. Then I open another business and do the same thing. And I got pizzerias and I got people working for me. Why the fuck would I pay them the same as I get paid when I'm the one that built this business up and I started it myself, and I put blood, sweat, and tears, equity into this? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I completely disagree with where this video is going with it.
Lives would be improved in an instant. At the end of the day, we produce enough for everyone. Let's stop pretending it makes sense for so much of it to be in the hands of so few people.
I agree with that, right? That part I get, where it's like, all right, cool, there's only 600 billionaires and they have like 80% of America's wealth. I get that part, but you know what I'm saying? Like, what are you going to do? You either going to change the system or you're going to have to figure out a way to work and try to get it on your own. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no, like, unless there's a realistic chance of changing the system, you're going to have to figure out how to get it on your own. It is what it is. Don't hate the game. Well, don't hate the player, hate the game. You know what I'm saying? They played the game. They made it to where they made it. And it is what it is.
I mentioned at the beginning of this video that this kind of content is made possible by my...
But yeah, I feel like I would have a big debate with whoever made this video. But like, to be clear, I understand what they're saying, right? I understand that, you know, why is it that you have 600 people that have more money than they can ever spend in their entire life, but you have millions of people that are living below the poverty line, right? Is there a way to equal that out, right? But and it's funny because I feel like I'm using quote unquote Republican talking points, and I'm not one. There's equal opportunity, but there's not equal outcomes, right? So how do you make up for the fact that if you give everybody the same opportunity, by nature, everybody doesn't work the same. By nature, there's going to be somebody that's going to slack off, somebody that's going to work 5 hours out their 8-hour day. There's going to be somebody that works 12 hours in an 8-hour day. They're going to stay longer. They're going to focus more. Not only that, but there's different levels of business savvy, different levels of luck. Some things in business are straight luck, right? You can't. There's so many variables that go into it that you can't just try to control the outcomes. It is what it is. I think I've spoken on this enough. Y'all let me know what y'all think about what I said in the comments section. I feel like this is going to start an argument. It is what it is. I'm ready for it. My name is Rain. Catch you on the flip side. RCP salute, wait for it.